I'm calling this part of our programme Pinkyfrying cynoteur because, well, shall I actually tell you? If you insist, if you really want to know, I might tell you later, but before I do, we'll just do the Pinkyfrying cynoteur magical process. Here we go now. Pretend you are recalling one of your cynical moments. Make it one of your worst cynicisms of late. In fact, make it the very one that you use that is responsible for having dismissed some of the good things that you have lined up for yourself. Because, you have. You know that, don't you? That cynicism that you somehow called into play when remembering that list of things you've held as valuable, yet also held at bay with that cynicism, that are how positive, how creative, and in how many ways beneficial to you all. You've held them all as how valuable, yet somehow, despite your so-called magical thinking arts, you've held their fulfillment somehow at bay. Otherwise they'd all be manifest, wouldn't they? You would be constantly manifesting those outcomes now. Aren't you finally now? Now, most ordinary people, when asked to actually remember the kind of expressions, the attitude and the words, the things that their own inner critic and cynic actually say, a lot of ordinary people would seem a bit stumped. And you? Are you lost for words, like a lot of these ordinary people? Or can you well keep track of the things that your inner cynic would say, and does say to dash your hopes all over the rocks? Have you got a good head for the things that you say to piss on your own parade? Do you really know how it is that you committed spiritual suicide? Do you? Have you got a brain in your head? Do you? You do. That's good. If you can, that's all very well. Because I'm just going to say, forget all that. Discard it, just throw it by the wayside. What? We're not relying on conscious memory here. We're beyond that, above that, more powerful than that. We're utilising wizardry here. Doing wizardry, being wizards. And we're using a process that's far more efficient than mere memory. You understand, don't you? So in doing that, I want you to imagine once again that you're kind of sending out your kind of psychic sheepdog thought forms again into the universe and deep into your very being, your soul, your mind, and rounding up all of these little cynicisms, negative words, personal negs, harsh, hard and semi-suicidal criticisms from you or anyone else, and corralling them from the place you normally hear them from, down into, say, your pinky toe. In doing so, also change its voice to become the most pipsqueakiest, daffy duckest, wussiest, wimpiest, most nervous, most shaky, most questionable, most yielding, most unsure, unconfident, weirdest, stupidest voice that almost sounds like it's speaking to you from some kind of distance. Like it's weak and distant. Something like... Even so that you almost have to strain to hear it. So that if these voices weren't actually projecting themselves, they would be nout more than little gnat type voices that you could just somehow swat away, even unconsciously. They'd be completely ineffectual, aren't they now? And even if you should so happen to look down at where that voice is talking to you from, see it as the wimpiest, wussiest little creature, with the tiniest voice and the smallest power, looking like some sad and puny clown, because that's what it is, isn't it, if you think about it? If it has been your expression or characteristic that has been responsible for undoing some of your good works, it is a clown, isn't it? Practice that swing. Swing your inner critic down to your pinky. Do that again. Swing your inner critic down to your pinky. Do that again. Swing your inner critic down to your pinky. Do that again. Swing your inner critic down to your pinky.
Down to pinky.
Say it then.
Down to pinky.
Go on.
Swing down to Pinky.
Swing down to your pinky.
Swing down to Pinky.
What do you notice? And what's your face doing? You are noticing, aren't you, that there's a whole world of difference between what used to occur as a result of the cynicism you used to throw doubts on your desired outcomes and manifestations, you know, throwing doubts on the life you really wanted and have really been creating at the etheric level, and how you're now responding to these things that used to be as destructive as they once were. You know, in swinging down all those cynicisms into your pinky, it changes the whole paradigm, doesn't it? The way you model it in your physical, emotional body, your unconscious, doesn't it? How do you feel? You're actually smiling just now, aren't you? Even if that's just a wee smile, a kind of half-baffled smile. Well, even that's better than the disempowerment you usually feel after dashing your hopes all over the rocks with your own cynicism, isn't it? I mean, do you really even realise how powerfully with that alone you've just rearranged your inner cynic? Do you? Don't you? Aren't you? Now. Again, what would happen if you did? Now that you've done all these magical processes. What is happening as you are? What would happen if you didn't, now that you've done all these magical processes? What is happening as you aren't now? What wouldn't happen if you did, now that you've applied your own inherent wizardry? What isn't happening as you are, with these specifically structured thought processes? And what wouldn't happen if you didn't, with your developing neuro-linguistic mastery? What isn't happening as you aren't, with your freshly revived and structured wizardry? Because, again, let's face it, it isn't exactly like you're pinky-frying the cynoteur, or not pinky-frying the cynoteur. Doesn't and isn't exactly not actually pinky-frying the cynoteur, or not pinky-frying the cynoteur. Aren't you not now? Now, I did say, didn't I, that I might tell you later what pinky-frying the cynoteur is. And that I might tell you after we'd actually done the pinky-frying the cynoteur magical process. Let's face it, because again and again and again and again, telling a secret, especially as I'm a wizard, it's not like it's not possible that it couldn't not fail to work, but and succeed, isn't it? And couldn't it not now? Creating all of the most beneficial effects and outcomes of the intended magical working, isn't it also not now? Pinky-frying started with the word pinkyfying. As in shifting a thing down to my pinky and making it kind of cute and pink, like that wee cute pink clown. I just changed that word a little bit to pinky fried instead of pinkified. Also referencing that Sid the Sin, you know, Sid Nick the Cynic, Sid Nick? Yeah, Sid Nick, that'll do. Sid Nick the Cynic, in having once meddled with me and you, is now, with this thoughtfully and intelligently structured, newly re-empowered and revivified, neuro-linguistic master wizardry, which is what it specifically is in my line of thinking. Well, Sid Nick the Cynic is either being fried or he's in the fire. You know, out of the frying pan and into the fire. Because of this neuro-linguistic wizardry, he's either being fried or in the fire. Cynoteur is an amalgamation of two words, cynic and saboteur, making cynoteur. So, both linguistically and neurologically, in this program we have just pinky-fried the cynoteur. Have we not? And how much more confidence does that give you now in the overall process of change and in this modality? And to any wee parts left over, whatever wee doubts you may have on the one hand, and any gullibility on the other hand, you know, gullibility accepting things hands down without testing and checking their correspondences and trying them as a process. Again, you can imagine doubting Thomas as a person on one hand, and you can imagine gullible Gus on the other, asking each in turn why it does that, why it says that, why it thinks that, and for each answer asking again, you know, why that answer, why they each say, think or do that, or words to that effect. You know, or what does that mean? Or what does that get you? To whatever their answers are. Until they have both hit that glass ceiling we've spoken about before, at which they're both in total agreement with one another, meaning both of those parts you have just also totally integrated. And you can bring both palms together in front of your chest, with your fingers about the height of your lower face, so you can be breathing on the middle fingers of both hands, just as in a Reiki prayer position, raising your countenance and your vibe into that Reiki magical realm, along with the rest and the other magics, eh? So that's 10 minutes. So how's about that for learning the kind of neuro-linguistic master wizardry you're learning from me to Pinkyfry the cynoteur?